nice gorgeous selfie with the gorge as your backdrop, feel free to do so. You know what I like to call that? A gorgeous selfie. Located over here on my left hand side. Now it's not stabilized or flashback at home, but it will feel free to smoke as many cigarette butts as you can. Now you see these two large cliff faces here in front of you. They mark the entry of the first floor. We're here in the national park. We're situated at the very bottom. Months. But during these 4 months, we usually capture about 1,000 mil of rain over in a catchment area which is over the eastern Arnhem Land. A little well started tied off to a long cable along the cliff face on the right hand side.
Alrighty, my lovely folks. Now, whenever you're ready, feel free to follow me up to the old ancient rock art. We're going to have a bit of a, maybe roughly about 10 to 15 minutes up there in the rock art, and then we'll before make our way back onto the boat. Because it is going to be extremely hot while we're up there. So I highly recommend grabbing some cold water before we disembark and make our way up there. If you guys want to leave any of your personal belongings on this vessel, feel free to do so. We are taking this boat back. Now, as you guys can see, due to the water conditions, we aren't really, able to make our way over towards the second gorge, due to the water conditions. So we're only going to be up on the rock art and then make our way back down. But whenever you guys are ready, feel free to follow me behind. And if you guys don't feel like you want to come up and follow us, just let myself, Tori or Rachel know, just so that I can see how much people that are wanting to remain behind. But if for those of you guys want to come and explore with me, feel free to do so and follow me up.
Whoa, you walk?
Yeah, it's my country.
Okay, bro. Go, let's go.
Today is the famous campsite for the local Jawan people. Now the Jawan people have been using this campsite for tens of thousands of years. Now the reason why they chose this place is because of this big massive wall face here. Keep this place shaded all year round. And as you guys can see just behind me here, there's like a few little tiny pools in the dry season. So there's two little pools there, they hop in there, swim around and looking out for fishes as well. Now with this rock art here, it's one of our oldest rock arts that we have. This rock art is dated back roughly 8 to 10,000 years old. So one of in the national park we have over 400 art sites that are dated back way longer, and they're quite unacceptable to get into. With this rock art here, this is the only accessible rock art that we have, and this is the only rock art that you guys will ever see. But if you guys are wondering what type of pigment the paintings have been done by, it's been done by red ochre. So the red ochre is a little soft rock called hematite that has a little mineral called iron dioxide, which basically turns into rust. So what the local Jawan people used to do, they used to crush all these red ochres up, crush it up into a very fine powder. Once they make the red ochre into a very fine powder, they just add a little bit of water, a little bit of tree sap from the bush orchid, or sometimes a little bit of animal blood as well. Once they mix up all the ingredients up together, take all the air bubbles out of it, that's when eventually they'll start painting whatever they collected along the area. So if you guys just have a look there on your far right hand side, you have a painting of a wateroo. Now if you're wondering how I can tell the difference between a wateroo and a kangaroo, now your kangaroo have much more of a sharp snout, where your wateroo have much more of a rounded snout. Where the kangaroo head is and the man figure head is, there's a line there, you see these little round things underneath. They're known as your flying foxes as well. So you have your flying foxes there, they're painted there as well. Structural bodies in high places that you can't really reach, and separates individual gorges. Now just above where the mimic spirit head is, you have a female and a male. And if you're wondering how I can tell those two apart, is that you see in the bottom there, you have a female, she's carrying a bag. Now that bag that she's carrying is called, here in Jawan, they call it a dilly bag. Now the dilly bags are the ones that the Jawan women makes for the men to put all their head spears, their waxes, and to carry water as well. Now just on the other side there, you have the Jawan male. Kind of looks like he's holding a balloon. What he's actually holding is a shield, a spear launcher, and a spear. Now with the spear launcher here in Jawan, they call it bondom. So they're the ones that launches the spears. If you guys have a look directly where I'm standing, there's a yellow figure just in front of me there. Now you can see there's a man painted in yellow. Now if you see two different sort of colours, they are the moieties. So the moieties is like the yin and yang that you have to balance. So with that guy there that's painted, obviously he's a Iricha man. So the Iricha is the yellow and the Dua is the red. So as you guys can see, you have a spear within his head. So basically what that tells me is that he must have misdriven within the Jawan law, and there's a consequences that comes afterwards. So obviously it's basically like a warning sign as well. Now just behind these tiny trees there's more paintings. So you got 6 circles. And 6 circles, they basically got the age of the Brolga. So you have a massive Brolga that stands on the side there as well, where the 2 human figures that are painted in their fully dressed ceremonial clothing. And then, you know, you have other 2 human figures that are painted upside down. So Jada, she was born and raised in a cattle station. She didn't really have much of a, of a knowledge of her family heritage and her family bloodlines. Now, Marbach, he was much more like an outcast. So he's been going around disturbing all the laws and, disobeying them and not facing all the consequences that he's been causing. So he came across the cattle station one day and he saw Jada, fell in love with her, and he wanted to be with her. But they were basically forbidden to be with each other due to the same skin name that they both were carrying. Now Jada and Marbach, they were basically, related as brother and sister. So within the Jawan law, if you have the same skin name with another person that you are both in the same group, that sort of relates you as brother or sister, first cousins, second cousins, aunties, uncles, mums and dads. So that's where all the extended families comes in through the bloodlines. Now Marbach, he potentially stole Jada, made a whole wild goose chase with all the Jawan elders and all the cattle station workers chase after him, and they did stand at the very top of that cliff face. Now I want to tell you guys what happened in the ending. I don't want to be any spoilers for you, so I'm going to leave you guys in a cliffhanger. So you guys are going to have to go back and watch it for yourself. But after Charles Chabelle finished filming that movie, he did send it off overseas to get it all edited and all ready to go for everyone to watch. But unfortunately, the ending of that movie did get damaged by a plane crash. So he didn't really have enough money to come back out here and remake the ending. So what he had to do, he had to improvise himself. So he flew himself over towards the Blue Mountains and painted the backdrop orange. So that's all I can say. But as you guys can see, within that movie, it's sort of basically related as within the Jawan law as well. Now, the first, the ancestral beings for the Jawan people, his name was Nogorokol. So Nogorokol is the ancestral beings that taught the Jawan people, proper behaviors and, how to, become like a man and become a woman. So he was the guy that laid down the Jawan law, so that all of the Jawan people can, obey all of the laws and learn all of the laws, and that way, they won't marry within each other. Now, within the Jawan people, if you marry someone that has the same skin name, that sort of doesn't really, make sense. Because if you do have a child with that person, then basically your child will be like an outcast, and they won't be able to go throughout their ceremonies and stuff like that. So to give you guys an example, we do have Jawan tour guides that are on site. So you do have myself, I'm a full Jawan traditional owner. Now you see, for me, my skin name is Wamatjan, and I'm a dual woman. Now, since that I carry that skin name, my skin name has 2 promised husbands. So it can either be Bangari or Gojo. But I gotta look out for those who can be my blood relations. So this is where it stops me from marrying my incest. So I can never marry anyone that has those 2 skin names within Jawan. But it doesn't really make sense if I do marry that person that has that skin name in Jawan, then my child with that person would be an outcast. And so if I have a son with that person, he wouldn't be able to go out through the ceremonies with all of my cousins and all of my brothers and stuff like that. So he wouldn't be able to learn anything from my family side. So this is where it stops us younger generations from marrying an incest. So this is where we have to marry someone that is not from Jawan. Makes sense? Yeah. I'm trying my best. That part there, it always confuses me when I try and explain it. So it's hard to learn off, it's hard to listen from someone explaining it, but it's more easier from learning it as you grow. It was an actual tour guide that was here for 27 years. He's been working here for 27 years. So he's gullible. So between Uncle Jamie and my mum, they're first cousins. Okay. Yeah. So with Uncle Jamie's child, she's my second cousin. So my first cousin is my mom's like sisters, and their siblings, they're my first cousins. But my mom's like, you know, cousin brothers, like all of my little bird cousins that are boys, and their children, they're my second cousins.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're half living.
Yeah.
Okay.
They, you know, whoever they want to marry. But then again, you know, we don't really know what to call their children.
Right.
So like right now, I'm a 20-year-old that's a grandmother. So my nieces and nephews are a bit of a, you know, they're a bit of a mixed up. So they're not, you know, they're not really, you know, concentrating on how important to live this law and to keep the bloodline strong.
I will give you 1 hour.